Bam. What is going on, folks? MC is in the house. All right. My name is Justin Garcia, also known as Master Chim, and welcome to the Warrior Stream. I'm here every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time, usually for about an hour, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. I just finish all relevant thoughts on the topic that I'm discussing and then call it a day. And I have a good time while doing it. I appreciate you guys joining me. And right now, I am streaming on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So do me a favor, and you are watching, check in, say what's up, see what we got here so far. What's up, Joe? What's up, Jamie? Good to see you guys. Caceres, what's up, brother, man? Good to see you. All right, what's up, Jesse? All right, as you guys jump on, let's take care of the housekeeping. All you guys that are on now, I'm sure, are already on my email list. But if you are not on my email list, the Master Chim letter, I have an hourly chime that I completely forgot is going to go off at the start of this video. Well, I have a... You shut the fuck up. Jesus. I turned the thing off and it's still going off. Anyway, if you become, or once you become obsessed with productivity, you will understand the need for me to do this. And apparently, since it is 12, it rang 12 fucking times, and I want to throw this damn clock across the room. Anyway, let's get back to where I was, which was, I'm glad it didn't happen in the middle of a deep thought. But MasterChim.com, you can go there. There's an opt-in form, and you can put in your email, and you will get my free email newsletter. I send it out every day. I take varying deep dives on different topics, and I share about what's going on with me, events, new video series, new projects that I'm involved in. I also have a quote of the day, which a lot of people give me good feedback on and say that they enjoy it. So masterchim.com, put in your email. I'll take care of that. All right. So today, self-passion. No, not that kind. Today, I'll be honest, when I make the title cards, the thumbnails rather, for these videos, I tend to try and have a good time. And today I was laughing. I got a kick out of that one. So I'm hoping you guys got a kick out of it too. But what is it that I'm talking about? Well, I sent out an email today, and I left a couple of talking points to sort of allow me to flesh out the position that I wanted to convey. And basically it is, I'm going to give you guys a take on the idea of passion being something that one should follow, and how an individual is told on one hand by a lot of prominent, productive, successful individuals that you have to follow your passion. You have other people that say that's absolute garbage. It has nothing to do with passion. It has to do with doing the things you're best at, doubling down on those things you're best at, and that will cultivate a passion of sorts, in that, people like being effective, productive, and valuable, and that is the shortest way, most effective way to do that. Everybody's got their take. I'll be honest. I think that everybody's got some truth to their positions. And a lot of times what I find myself arguing is not the validity of somebody's application, but if I am in a position to debate or argue with somebody on something, it is in the concept behind the application. So there are some people who, I'm going to give you an easy analogy. They will open a pizza shop, and they'll make $1 million running a pizza shop. And if somebody asks them, hey, how do you become a millionaire? Makes sense. They say, open a pizza shop, run a pizza shop, you can become a millionaire. It is not inaccurate for them to say that. But what is lost in that perspective that they're sharing is the bias they have because of the scale of the lens they're using to distill the formula that they're sharing. the guy who looks at his pizza shop and they ask him, how do you make $1 million? He runs his pizza shop. He makes $1 million. He says, open a pizza shop. He is probably at the lowest form of scale. A higher scale example is, well, open a restaurant maybe, and then maybe open a business, maybe higher than that, become an entrepreneur. Like, who knows? Like, we could go, and not a lot of use in designing every rung of what that ladder of scale might look like. But the point is that there are certain scales, there's certain levels that individuals could be paying attention to. And I think no matter where you are in the ladder, I think transcendent over the ladder is the concept that the ladder really just represents different scales of application of that concept. So this idea of passion, I think that there are things that we do that reflect upon who we are. And I think there are things that we do that reflect what we feel obligated to do. Who we are and what we're obligated to do are usually two separate things in somebody's minds. And what I want to do today is see if there's some commonality, or if there is some perspective that we could take whereby these things just look like two rungs on the same ladder. The first point that I put up on the email today was asking the question, or stating why passion and work is an alliance that's on you to build. One of the things I tell my coaching students, I tell my martial arts students, I tell my children, whatever you do as you. Whatever you do as you. And I've often, run the exercise with individuals where I ask them, if your name was an adjective to describe the value of a thing, of an action, it's up to you, the individual, to describe what that value actually represents. So my name is Justin. If somebody that knew me were to say to somebody else that knew me, I was doing it this way, but then I decided to do it at a Justin level, making a reference to me. Well, I'm the one who, up until that point, populated and formed what the value of that statement would be to that individual saying that. I'm going to do this at a Justin level, he says. Well, does that mean that he starts to do it, in a lazy, shitty, inconsistent way, a low level, low quality way? Or is it he's going to step it up? He's going to do it in a high quality way. He's going to do. And now, if each one of us had to determine, well, what is it that, what value do we assign to our name in that context? I'd say that the next follow-up question really is, well, does that apply to everything you do? Because here's the thing, we'll cherry pick things that we're good at, things that we get some energy from, and we'll say, that should be the description. That should represent the quality of my name. And what you are missing is that who you are is a set of standards that exists in a transcendent position above all these applications. Similarly to the way I described, that same ladder earlier in this talk. So if you're somebody who is a world-class doctor, I don't know, you're a world-class doctor, and you have gotten all of these accolades from other people. And I think worth noting is accolades may or may not reflect actual value. It's just perceived value from their perspective. But if everybody thinks that you are an incredible world-class doctor in whatever field that you are practicing, they attribute certain, values to who you are. Do it at a Dr. Smith, if that's the example, do it at a Dr. Smith level. If they think Dr. Smith is very good at what it is that he does, then that means that they have to step it up. But what if Dr. Smith in this example, who is a world-class doctor and receives a lot of attention and accolades because of it, let's say that he is a terrible father. Well, if Dr. Smith's son or daughter were to say, I'm going to do this at a Dr. Smith level, is it now saying that they're going to do this in a poorer way, at a lower level of quality? And I think when we look at our lives, a lot of us have a lot of inconsistencies because we want to value ourselves based on the individual application in which we experience most passion. So the point that I think is to be found from this observation that I just shared, who we are is a consistent variable in every application that we partake in. Everything that we do, we are the common factor. And I would say that having a relationship with who we are before we enter into any application is an investment of time developing that everybody will find to be worthwhile. If you are somebody who is a great athlete, when you're playing your game, your sport, you are a tremendous representation of mastery, hard work, all these other things. But then when you are not playing your game, you are disloyal, deceptive, inconsistent, or reliable. Understand that representation of who you are, when you don't have the passion supplemented by the application, or I should say who you are when you do not have the power, fire, and energy that's given to you by one particular application, is who you are. If you are somebody who is an incredible man when he is performing on a stage, a musician, and that particular application gives you, because you have a passion for that application, gives you a level of energy that allows you to represent your best self. I would argue that that is nothing more than something that could be taken at that level. You are only going to be judged or valued by those high levels of standard and complimented and given the feedback of a higher level if you are doing that one particular thing. But if without that thing, you are, for lack of a better way of putting it, fucking useless, then you're pretty fucking useless at default. And I think from an individual standpoint, this is something that we benefit from understanding about ourselves. I don't think this is something that can be regulated nor even incentivized in most alliances to other people. I think this is an internal struggle, if you will. And I think where we need to find our passion and where we need to rely on being energized by the passion from is the pursuit of who we are as an individual, regardless of the applications we may use to illustrate who we are. It really circles back to the phrase I shared earlier that I share with everybody up to and including my own children. Everything you do as you. I think there are a lot of people nowadays that they have a passion for certain things and they don't bother to develop themselves beyond that. And when removed from that one application that they derive that passion energy from, when removed from that, they wind up becoming a very low value. They wind up having a set of ethics and principles and relationship with their ecosystem that does not really weigh their worth very favorably because they've never done what was necessary to build themselves up beyond what they get from engaging that one source of passion and energy they have. It is like somebody who is, let's say, addicted to Adderall, right? Somebody's addicted to Adderall. And whereas I don't know the chemical level of dependency something like Adderall could create, I don't need to be a doctor to really conclude that the benefits of being stimulated, more aware, and all the things that Adderall does could produce psychological addictions to your level of output or the reception you get from your surroundings at that level. Well, the thing is, when you are not on Adderall, if you are not looking to generate a higher level of who you are, then can we really say that you deserve the credit for being who you are on Adderall? Very easy to say yes or to hide behind a yes there, because not a lot of other people know the difference. I was just watching a video a few days ago. There's a guy who I really like his content. I don't watch all of it, but a guy, Bill Whittle, Whittle, and he had a video talking about Adderall. That's why it was on my brain. And he said that he's been on Adderall for years. I want to say like a decade or so. And that apparently there is a nationwide shortage of Adderall right now. And that he couldn't get any. And he said it was like coming off of like a major drug. And I think he was being a little over the top. You're like, Bill, you're going to be okay. But it was, I think, worth noting that even though I think, maybe he was being a little emotional, like overdoing it with how bad it was, here he was making a video, here he was, producing the same level of content. And not having the benefit of that Adderall, like he was still compelled to produce a certain level of output as an individual, while not having that crutch that he had built an addiction to. And I'm saying addiction, but I think you guys understand what I mean. I think when we look at people in their lives and they say they want to, well, I want to get into this because, I'm really passionate about it. It's like, all right, I want to be a musician. Why do you want to be a musician? Because that's what I'm most passionate about. Okay. As a musician, what type of attributes will you demonstrate? Will you display? Who will you be when you're doing music that you love, that you're so passionate about? Oh, I'm motivated. I'm punctual. I'm reliable. I'm creative. I'm in a good mood. I'm helpful. I'm authentic. And then like, well, why don't you have those attributes when you're not doing music? Well, it's because I'm not passionate about it. So it's like, so you're only a good person when you're doing this thing, but you're not a good person, right? Right? Is that what you're saying? It's like, I'm at my best when I'm doing this thing. Well, when you're not doing that thing, then you're not at that level. You're not like, you don't have those attributes. Now, don't get me wrong. I think obviously there's maybe a collection of things that everybody is going to be energized by, but it begs the question, well, who are you when you don't have access to that energy? And what I'm an advocate for is really an individual developing a relationship with who they are in that sense before they start adding the benefits of these passion-driven, applications that they come across in their lives. So why passion and work is an alliance that's on you to build. I think it's up to you to become passionate being a high caliber individual. That is going to serve everybody well at the highest level of scale, because you don't need an application to illustrate it. Why are you not stealing? Because I'm not a thief. Why didn't you rape that woman? Because it's illegal. Said nobody. It's like, no, because I'm not a rapist. So there's an observation, a connection we can make to the identity, the substance of an individual that transcends any application that the individual may partake in to illustrate who they are. If I'm going to do something at a Justin Garcia level, I want that to be as consistently demonstrated and observed in everything that I do. I'm not fucking perfect, Like, by the way, I am still working on this day to day, but I find it to be a very limited if not misguided, advice, that one should just follow their passions. It's like, well, passions are like superpowers, but we're not always privy to those superpowers. So should we not endeavor to become the highest form of who we are before energy enters the equation, before passion enters the equation? My next point that I brought up in the email at masterchim.com, the difference between being lazy and off mission. So here's another thing. When people are looking to be productive, when people are looking to pursue success, I don't know, we'll use that. They conflate being busy with being on mission. Sometimes people will be very busy, but they will be off mission. So their busyness does not necessarily contribute to the progressions that they've endeavored to pursue. If somebody tells me, I want to chop this tree down, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to chop this tree down, this big, oak tree. And you ask them how they're going to do it, and they say, I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to keep slapping this fucking thing until eventually I slap my way through it. They could work very hard. They could push themselves. They could come home every night exhausted. Like they could have all the aches and pains, but they're not chopping the fucking tree down. So there's something that I think that comes in a form of what I would say is a distraction when people conflate busyness with being on mission. If you are being lazy, it's because you are not pursuing, movement. But the solution to that transcends just moving. We want to move, it being mandatory and all. But the other requirement that we have to become accountable to is, are we moving toward mission? Which begs the question, how could you make sure you're on mission if you've never done the work to determine what the mission is? If you're somebody whose mission is to do what gives you energy, well, here's something of note. What produces that energy for you will change. It will evolve as you do. I've shared a story before, really like a metaphor. It's not really what's the word? It's like just a story to illustrate it. Maybe an analogy, metaphor, whatever. If I were to meet an 8-year-old, and I saw this 8-year-old, and I said, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? And he said, I want to be a fireman. Oh, that's cool. 8 years old. Firemen represent certain attributes and qualities, and he is already identifying with that, and he sees that that's the type of relationship he wants to have with surroundings, like all good things. But if that same 8-year-old, and if I were to see him at 28, and I go, hey, what do you do for a living? He goes, oh, I'm a fireman. A lot of people will look at that individual and go, oh, that's so cute. That's so impressive. Isn't that nice? He wanted to be a fireman since he was 8. Well, fortunately, I'm usually the only asshole in the room that's going, well, wait a minute. He had shit figured out when he was 8. From the time you were 8 to the time you were 28, there was nothing else. Like, you really had everything figured out when your mind was 8 years old? I'm not really impressed with that. So for me, it's, if you're somebody who will only follow your passions, well, what happens when they change? Are you going to then continue to persevere and stick with what it is that used to give you the energy that a passion does, but no longer does? No. What winds up happening? Well, this is where we sort of start to see the practical, use of these observations that I'm making. You're somebody that goes there until it stops giving you energy. And then you leave to go get energy from something else. So you wind up becoming this sort of parasite on these different applications because you never will generate the energy and fulfillment internally. No, your systems prey upon how the relationship with a particular application gives you the energy you need to move forward. I will say there should always be something about everything that you do that you enjoy. But sometimes, admittedly, the only thing that fits that bill is the opportunity to do it. Oh, I gotta mow my lawn today. It's going to take me 6 hours, says the guy who has a fucking lawn to mow, right? There's always the perspective we could change to where we get back to gratitude. And I think that is a big part of the message I'm trying to share. It's, in my experience, the individual who has gratitude for the opportunities in front of him never becomes entitled to them by labeling them a passion and then relying or expecting that particular endeavor to provide them with the motivation to be a better version of themselves. I want to be a famous movie actor. Okay. But if you don't wind up being a famous movie actor, are you going to be an asshole? Are you going to be a loser? Are you going to be somebody who has absolutely no redeeming qualities that people from other walks of life could observe and respect? Are you the sort of spoiled child of life that needs to get his or her way in order to do your best? Or are you somebody that separates themselves from the applications and says, well, no, I'm going to do my best. Why? Because I'm somebody who does their best. You guys know the whole thing where, you bring the shopping cart back and I don't know who said it, but they said that correlates to the quality of the individual. Like good people bring the shopping carts back, whatever that means, but bad people or low quality people don't bring the shopping carts back. Well, I always found it funny because it's like that would be a great thing for a supermarket to make a meme and put out there so people are bringing the shopping carts back. But I once had, this true story. If you know me, you know it's a damn true story, but everyone else just take it for what it is. I had an individual, once lady, I go to bring my shopping cart back and she had a shopping cart and she put it up on a curb next to her car. And me, I can't help myself. I went to take it and I said, oh, don't worry, I'll get your shopping cart. So she rolled down the window and she was old. That's probably why I did this for the window. She probably had an automatic window, but she rolled down the window. And so what, you think you're better than me? And I said, no, I'm just better than leaving shopping carts, in the parking lot. Right? She didn't know what to make of that. And I had fun with it, as I usually do, navigating the awkward conflicts that I probably create on my own every day out and about in society. But the logic, at least, behind me being a wise ass to this lady was she has nothing to do with it. I bring my shopping cart back because I'm somebody who brings shopping carts back. I'm somebody who does that. You don't have to agree. That might not be a thing, but that's kind of the point, whether you agree or not, and it not affecting me because it has nothing to do with any sort of feedback that I'm getting from my surroundings. My kids, when they do jujitsu or they wrestle, the only thing that I ask them when they're done is, did you fight hard? Did you give your best? Did you try hard? And it sounds a little corny, right? You started getting cliche pretty early when you talk about these things. But one of the things I think worth mentioning is I never ask if they won. I never ask if it's jujitsu, did you get submitted? Did you tap him or did he tap you? I never want them to build the value in the outcomes because why? Let's say I have my son who competes in a tournament and submits 6 kids. you want to give him the feedback, and this is like a little bit of a parenting application here that I got to mention. Like, yeah, you want to give him the feedback for having a successful day and putting the effort in a general sense that it wound up being a victory. You want to put, yeah, it feels good when you win. But really, if we're trying to anchor them to the characteristics that are going to stick with them in that and every other application of being who they are, they could have submitted 6 kids because the other 6 kids sucked. Or maybe he was just a little better than every other kid. But maybe that particular day where my son in this hypothetical tournament submitted 6 kids, maybe he actually could have done a lot better than he did. But because we're only tracking how he did against that individual, and we're allowing these other people to enter into the factor of the formula, rather, of how we determine our worth and our output, we're never going to really see what the pinnacle of our efforts can actually design, because they're anchored to circumstances. Circumstances change, which is, again, an argument for having internal sort of compasses of effort and mastery and passion even. I think when you look at where you are in your life, you can't just dismiss it as being, like one of these, well, of course I could do that. When I tell people, oh, my car broke down, and it's like, yeah, well, you know what? A tow truck's coming to pick you up because you have insurance and it's a nice car, and you'll probably rent a car that's still nicer than any car that I ever had at your age. And, and I just, like most people on the world don't even have cars. And, like it summarized the whole thing, first world problems. Like some people want to say, they want to push back against that. Yeah, well, I am in the first world, so it is a valid problem and I can't reduce. And it's like, okay, you could still be weak and victimized if you want, it's not the way I was born, but some people, they say are born that way, right? So some people are born that way where you have to identify as a victim. But I'm just somebody who says, like, here I am still moving. Here I am. Like, this is the latest challenge. I shared with you guys before what was fresh in my mind when I thought of the example. My oldest son and I had bought this, or I still own this used complete piece of shit pickup truck, right? It's like a 2001 Chevy S20. It's like one of those little mini pickups. And I remember seeing it and I wanted it. And as soon as I saw it, like I test drove it. I bought it off the guy. Well, the problem is I don't know anything about cars and vehicles. So I didn't know. It's like, yeah, I turned the key, it turned on, put it in the drive, it went, pressed the brake, it stopped, like the door, like, seems like a good car to me. Complete piece of shit. My mechanic was yelling at me. But I remember I was driving that shortly after I got it to New York from PA, and I had my oldest son when we were going to train, and the truck broke down on the highway in Jersey, and the transmission line snapped, and it looked like I had like a smoke emitter out of my car, like I was some spy vehicle, and so very embarrassing for my son. I didn't give a shit, and it winds up just being dead in the water because transmission doesn't work. So I pull over and we're sitting there and I'm laughing. Now we're supposed to go train. We're on a pretty tight schedule, but like, it's like, here I am laughing because, in my family, my parents, they both worked hard every day of their lives, but we never had great cars. So it was usually some beat up car, some old car. My father was a mechanic, so he could buy a really shitty car and make that thing last forever, right? He was like fucking Dr. Frankenstein, and we had a lot of Frankenstein cars. So the idea of breaking down and being on the side of the road, it's like, I'll be honest, my kids don't have a lot of experience with that. So immediately I was laughing because it's like, well, good. They get to my oldest son at least gets to have a rep of what it's like. So yeah, we have no control over this. Car broke down. Here we are. Got to wait to get picked up. Got to tow the car back. And it was a good rep. And that's the way that I choose to interpret scenarios like that. In the beginning, I had to say, well, at least I have a car. Yeah, well, I was at that point. That's the rung on the ladder I was when it came to having this type of mindset. But shouldn't that be the mindset that we're all building toward every day anyway? You think about all of the stresses and anxieties people are going through. And, to me, I understand, how people react to these things is just a reflection of where they are in their development. But again, circling back to the whole premise of this talk, it's like, why aren't you trying to develop you then moving forward? Like some people, like their car will break down and they'll lose their minds. They'll be stressed out. They'll go through this big emotional, traumatic, thing. And at the tail end of it, somebody will tell them, well, this is why you got to get a new car. You got to stop with the used cars because the used cars that break down. And, like, look at you, you're a mess. Like you have a new car, it doesn't break down. Meanwhile, I'm like, well, maybe we should really address why they're acting like a little bitch just because their car broke down. And after we sort that out, sure, buy a newer car. Like newer cars are nicer, like I guess, whatever. But his car broke down and he's ready to jump off the fucking roof. Doesn't make any sense. Let's address that. That's my perspective. Let's get to some questions here. All right. James, what's up? What's up, Corey? You're on Saxa. What's going on? Aaron, what up? All right. Chris, what's up, Chris? He says one of the principles of Stoicism, right? Exterior stimuli shouldn't change your mindset and motivation. Discipline should keep your mind rooted and productive. Absolutely. And, it's one of the reasons why Stoicism is, just so accessible to people nowadays, because people are going through some shit, right? We have these first world, brains. We have these, fully developed or impressively developed, frontal lobes. My father's quote, we're so smart, we could be stupid. All these imaginary lions, right? I've given that talk before. It's like, yeah, why don't we square this away and realize that so long as that little voice in our head is hanging out with us, like we're never alone. It's all going to be all right. Like we could still trust everything is what it's supposed to be. It's just, this is this particular level of the game, right? No, I reached the next level of the game. Yeah, fucking this one sucks. It's going to take a while to beat this level before I get to the next one. That idea of having a philosophy that's based in maintaining a perspective that I'd say is built foundationally in recognizing and maintaining the separation of the internal and the out, the external. I think that is paramount to an individual's ability to navigate the things that I'm discussing. And I think Stoicism is a great, whole philosophical worldview that is overlapped with that sentiment. And I think that's where people really have a lot of mistakes. Their car breaks down and, they start saying to themselves or out loud or to somebody else, why does this always happen to me? Why does this have to happen today? As if there was some conspiracy beyond physics. It's like literally, if anybody for the rest of your life asked you, why did this happen? You literally could look at them and go, physics. Like, it's really no more complicated than that. It doesn't need to be, at least. It doesn't even matter. It's about what is in our control. What could we then move forward to being in control more impressively, right? More completely, if nothing else. And I'd say, again, it comes to, well, who are you? Everything you do is you. And if you're somebody who needs a thing to be happy, who needs a thing to be productive, who needs a thing to be valuable, who needs a thing to be, in a good productive state, like you're somebody who's just agreeing to be deficient. You're somebody who's agreeing to be less than functional. And, it's just, I think it's a very limited, approach to one's life. Cherrytown Vibe, what's up, my man? Derek, what's up, Derek? Good to see you. Cherrytown Vibe asks, are you saying that it's better to educate yourself on things outside your passion to train your mind to find new ones? I would say that what I'm saying, redundancy, It's better to train your mind. Period. Where that training occurs, let that just be a matter of happenstance. But it's better to train your mind. It's not about, where your passions are and where your passions should be, or it's about how can I make passion a state of living? I don't know if you guys track Tony Robbins, but a long time ago, he came up with the phrase, live with passion. And he was tracking this shit at a level that I don't think the majority of people listening to him were tracking, but this is exactly overlapped with what he was trying to convey. It's not about doing passionate things. It's not even about almost mimicking or exuding passion. Like, it's not about, I'm going to show you passion. It's about designing an approach to your life that embedded in it is a passionate process before you get into anything else. It took me a long time, maybe I'm 48, maybe 40 years, maybe 45, to stand outside and in the morning, part of my ritual, stand outside and doing my mobility drill. And a lot of times when it's sunny, I have the sun on my face. I'm closing my eyes. I'm doing my mobility stuff, get the blood going, wake up the nervous system and everything. And it's like there's just so much gratitude in that moment. And there's a part of me that I'd be lying if I said wasn't every once in a while going, you had access to this shit your whole life. How come you never used it? Oh, what's the old saying? When the student is ready, the master will appear. It's like, what's a great way to learn old wisdom? Become a student. Become a student. Oh, man. James says, yes, gratitude is the key piece. Right on. Aaron says, not only does he have a lawn to mow, he has a big enough one that takes 6 freaking hours to do so. Damn right. Cart narcs, Jamie. This is a great observation too, and I appreciate this share, Derek. He says, it's not the strongest of the species that survives. It's those most adaptable to change. Now, here's the thing that I would lend as a reaction to that. Maybe we should redefine then what we say is strong. Maybe we have a sort of biased opinion in society of what strength actually is, but maybe we should start anchoring terms like strength to those very practical, real observations of what works, and these are the things that that I think people need to come to terms with. I had a mastermind meeting this morning, and one of the guys in the group who's doing a really, really good job, he was sharing with the group that one of his rituals in the morning is to spend an hour just working on learning marketing. And I'm not talking about, writing emails, designing cards, like that might eventually be part of it. And he's a successful business. He's a chiropractor, has a chiropractor business. And he spends an hour every day now studying marketing because he doesn't know how to fucking market. Now, mind you, he's a chiropractor. He went to school. I shared I thought was an entertaining little side story today on my mastermind call with the group that maybe in my mid 30s, I had this thing where I was like, you know what? I think I want to become a chiropractor too. Because up to that point, now mind you, I love chiropractors. I've been going to chiropractors, since I was a teenager. Tremendous advocate for chiropractic care. But one of the things, the missing pieces in my relationship with that was I thought being a chiropractor was like, yeah, I'm going to go and take a course like on the weekend. And like, what'd you do this past weekend? Oh, I got my chiropractor certification. I thought I did not understand the level of education involved in being a chiropractor. Now, in my defense, this was like 15 years ago, so I have since educated myself. But that being said, this individual, he's gone through some shit to become a chiropractor. But here he is, grown-ass man, dad, successful business, spending an hour a day learning marketing because he realizes he wants to be somebody who approaches life with a consistent level of gratitude and all of the attributes that he wants to build and display, and he wants his reputation to be connected to. Things like hard work, perseverance, humility, gratitude. All of these different things transcend any of the applications, right? Corey says, MC righting wrongs in the world. I think it's MC trying to interact at a minimal level while not getting in trouble. Chris says, I push shopping carts all the way back to the front of the store and wipe them down with the hand wipes. Not that I'm bragging. Listen, I don't know about bragging, but you might need some medicine because that is what we called OD in the Bronx. Ruski, what's up, brother, man? Joe says, yeah, never identify with weakness. Right on. Corey says, there never used to be a law that required a homeowner to put away their trash can after pickup, but now it can carry a fine if you don't. Reminds me of the shopping cart story. Well, I've said before that, you can never legislate morality, but you can legislate and regulate deviant behavior. So it's like there was a time where you didn't have to tell people to bring their garbage cans back because they didn't want to be the house on the street with garbage cans in front of it. But now it's like, it became something that eroded in society to the point where now it needs to be regulated. It'll come a point too, continues, and I do think it'll continue to where they can't even do that because nobody wants to do it. And having garbage cans in front of your house no longer becomes a shameful thing. So the need for regulation isn't there. But when that occurs, they'll hold it on artificially beyond its use because it'll also be a revenue generator for whatever, city or state that you're in, municipality. Corey says these actions are so small, but can make or break a healthy society. I mean, think about it. Think about if at an individual level, there were standards that transcended any of the expectations of those around them. It would mean that it didn't matter if you were born in a shitty crime-ridden neighborhood, if you were born into poverty, if you were born with an abusive parent, or so. If we had an individual, commitment and process to mastery, all these people could get out of that ditch they found themselves in and wind up thriving, but dream on, right? That's the situation we're in. Yarn says, Sachs says, Brian and I were talking about the student and the master the other day, and I told him sometimes the student becomes the master when the master fails to continue learning. Absolutely. And I would add to that, there are times where the student needs the advice of the master in one area, but the master needs the advice of the student in another. So mastery, put it this way. I called myself Master Chim one day. Chim was my nickname. Master, I made the highest level of instructor in my school. Master Chim. Okay. There are all sorts of people that will never call me Master Chim. I don't give a fuck. There are a whole sorts of people that just won't call me, period. Right? But some people won't call me Master. I don't give a shit. I have students in the school that call me Master Chim. I have students in the school that don't want to call me Master Chim. I have students in the school that call me, they'll say coach, or they'll try and have interactions with me where they don't have to say it. And I understand whatever they're doing, that's a them thing. It doesn't matter to me. That's their thing that they're dealing with. It's the process that they have. My whole thing is, if I call myself a master, it is what my dedication to my processes are, if nothing else. I am somebody that tries to become a master level or achieve mastery in every aspect of my life. I'm not there, by the way. But that is what I endeavor to do. Maybe it's, I never really had a problem with this because I grew up in a Roman Catholic family, and in Roman Catholic churches, you see these guys all the time that, they're 25 years old, 30 years old, and they have 60-year-old men calling them father. Father this, father that. Because that's just the nature of the tribe that they're in and the culture that they've designed. But to me, it's like, that is who I am to me when I say I have a master title. It is not that I have achieved mastery in everything that I do. No, it's that I have committed my life in the pursuit of that level of mastery. And I think that's a distinction that needs to be made. You have individuals today that they think because they've achieved mastery in some sense, and this very, very, I'd say, comfortably overlaps on what I was talking about earlier, where because they've achieved mastery in one area of their life, they think that they're supposed to have the accolades and benefits of every area of their life, as if it was the only one that they've actually achieved mastery in. I remember having a student of mine, and he's still a student of mine. He is a longtime black belt in judo. And in the jungle gym, for a long time, we had Brazilian jiu-jitsu ranks being worn in the school. And then we transitioned to a jungle gym rank system. And people had rank in jiu-jitsu and even judo, but they wore the jungle gym rank. And this is when we still had jiu-jitsu rank. And this judo black belt, longtime judo black belt, came to me and asked me if he could wear his judo black belt. And I said, no, right? No, because this is Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And he says, well, we do a lot of judo. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, you can wear your judo black belt underneath your gi, and then you close the gi with the jiu-jitsu black belt. So that way you feel good knowing you have your judo black belt on, but you're not good in jiu-jitsu, and your rank in jiu-jitsu at the time was a white belt. Some people would look at that and say, well, you know what? There's so much similarity. Oh, this guy was an older gentleman. It's respectful. And I still contend that I'm doing him a favor by not allowing him to succumb to his ego deficiencies, because forcing him to put a white belt on puts him on the mat in a way that it doesn't have him defending anything to the people around him. He actually stands the best chance of becoming a student if I force him to wear that white belt. I had students that when I created the master instructor level in the hierarchy of instructors, and I became Master Chim, they were saying, oh, you're doing that just because you want people, because of an ego thing. You just want people to bow to you. And like, if they only knew that if it was up to me, I wouldn't have fucking been around any of these fucking people to begin with in my life. But I told them, no, what it is though, is I'm the one with the target on my back. I'm the one that when people criticize the jungle gym, they criticize me. I'll get all of that. I'll put it out there and I'll be the target. Because it allows everybody else to just build a functional relationship that they enjoy with jiu-jitsu, which is important. Like, I don't play the politics. I don't play can these people that I'm not connected to functionally, besides this one thing, I'm going to design my life to appease them in a way that I have more status to that. Like, no, I got so many people that I care about, so many people that love me, that I love, that would sacrifice for me, that I would sacrifice for. Those are the people every day I look to impress. Those are the people I look to take care of. I don't care what strangers, have to say about me. I love enjoying and having these positive interactions with people who are outside of my tribe in ways that builds rapport, right? You could say rapport is almost like a pre-alliance, right? It's like when you're pre-qualified for a loan. It's like when you have good rapport, you're pre-qualified for an alliance. I enjoy having these pre-qualifying interactions with people. But when it comes down to it, it's like, yeah, I have my tribe and I'm good with them and I treat them well and they treat me well, and I'll use an example that I think is another good iteration of this. In jiu-jitsu, like the top no-gi guy on the planet right now is Gordon Ryan. And I've said this for a long time because Gordon Ryan is, he has an abrasive brand and reputation, and, he markets himself in a particular way and it produces results. The guy is not only very good, the best submission grappler on the planet, if not ever, but he's a very successful, earner. He's making millions of dollars. He is doing things, through jiu-jitsu that people couldn't even conceive of, just a few years ago. But because he's so abrasive, people want to dislike him. They want to reject or denigrate him. They want to say that he's not good for the sport. He's not like the sport. That always makes me cringe when I hear it. But this is sport at this point that we're talking about. My jiu-jitsu isn't a sport, right? But there is a sport jiu-jitsu world, and there are people who want to say he's a bad guy. He's bad this, bad that, and they want to make it off like he's a bad person. He's an immoral person. He lacks character. I've always said, and I continue to say, judge an individual. Gordon Ryan would be an example of this, not by how they treat you, but by how they treat the people that are in their tribe. And you look at Gordon Ryan, and what do you have? You have somebody that trains as hard, if not harder than everybody else. You have somebody who has achieved a tremendous amount of success, yet he's somebody who is undyingly loyal to his instructors. He promotes himself and his people. He gets anybody that does something good for him. He's always publicly showing gratitude to those individuals. Somebody, when you're making $1 million a year, there are a lot of things you don't need from other people. And a lot of the things that he's showing gratitude for are things that fall under that category of, he could have gotten them himself, but he didn't. Somebody else gave it to him, and he was appreciative and showed that. He's still loyal to his day one people. Not all of them are still there of their own accord, but I don't judge people by if they're nice to strangers or not. I judge people by how they treat their tribe. I judge people by what are the attributes that drive their days. Are they hardworking? Are they honest? Are they accountable for what they do? And a guy like Gordon Ryan, and if you don't do jiu-jitsu, spoiler alert, they're not, maybe that's not even the right phrase. You're not even understand what the fuck I'm talking about, but he's just somebody who's very abrasive. I think he is very Conor McGregor-esque in his marketing of his brand. One of the differences, I would say, between a guy like Gordon Ryan and a guy like Conor McGregor is Gordon Ryan walks the walk in every aspect of the term. He is somebody who is not getting caught with girls in hotel rooms. He's not getting caught assaulting people in bars. He's not getting caught and pursued by police for throwing chairs through bus windows. There are a lot of people that love Conor McGregor. It's very entertaining. I love Conor McGregor for that value too. Conor McGregor is also an incredible fighter. But you look at a guy like Gordon Ryan, there's a distinction to be made. Gordon Ryan doesn't do all those things. Gordon Ryan is literally almost like an arrogant ascetic of jiu-jitsu. He is somebody who willingly endures suffering to become the highest form that his potential can create. He walks the walk. He treats his people very favorably. We have to reassess what our criteria is for the value of a man when you have somebody like a Gordon Ryan who does all those things and we still want to say something bad about him. So I think I'm going to end there. I appreciate all the comments and messages. Derek says, Chim, come to my place for a seminar soon. Derek, how about this? Never mind a seminar. How about we'll link up and I'll go there and just teach a class there. I'll just show up one night and say, oh yeah, you could say, yeah, my buddy Chim's teaching tonight, and we do it that way. But I'll show you guys whatever you want to know, but we don't need to make it a money thing. And I've known you a long time, and I don't need the money. All right, guys, I appreciate you. I will see you next week. Thank you, and to all you brothers and sisters out there, pressure to power.